copy all of the slides. The recording of this webinar as well as the slides are going to be available for you to be able to use, and you'll get that information right after this webinar. So don't worry about making notes or taking notes. Second, you can take notes if you want. That's okay too. Second, there's a survey at the end of this presentation. As you leave the presentation, there'll be a quick survey that will pop up. And so I just need to make sure that you know that it's really important if you answer that survey. It helps us improve our webinars and make sure that we just continue to provide a valuable service to you, whether you're a customer of ours or a soon-to-be customer of ours. And last, you may want to ask questions, and so you can hear me, but I can't hear you on the webinar. But luckily with the GoToWebinar tool, there's an area for you to ask questions. So you should see in your GoToWebinar panel a little questions box. And Fanny and I will be looking at those questions, and at the end of the webinar, we really can't do it during the webinar, but at the end of the webinar, we'll take a look at the questions and answer them either live. We'll read them out to you and let you, and answer them live, or we will, if you have a specific question about your practice, we will answer them directly to you or to the group online. So there's a lot of different opportunities for you to ask questions and interact with our webinar and get all the information you need. So let's get started properly. Again, this is a webinar called Anatomy of a Perfect Website. And really, if you think about everything that you have to do, everything you have to do with your website, we really wanted to provide some insight into how you can improve your online presence. And so our agenda today is going to be brief, but it's we think it's pretty important in terms of helping you grow your practice, to get more patients and engage your current patients. So we're going to talk about why is a website important, and that seems like a pretty easy question. Who is using your website? We'll spend a lot of time in being able to show you who's using your website and what they're using it for. And then we'll talk about some final considerations that you think about. And this is a pretty in-depth webinar, but we think it'll provide a lot of value to you. So let's just get started about why is a website important? And it seems like a pretty silly question. When you think about it, if you think about it, it's where my patients find my address and phone number. And a lot of people think that that's what the purpose of the website is. But the answer to the question is much more complex than that, because your website can be, and for many of you, it's much more than just a place to find your location. And if you see here on the screen, there's some examples of why your website is important. And I just want to just spend a minute on that and really think about it, because we do a lot of studies and review of our customers, and a lot of our practitioners and a lot of our doctors, you set up a website, you make it pretty, you make sure that it has some nice content, and then you just hope it works. But you're not really spending a lot of time making sure that this component of your online marketing strategy is working and how to make sure you optimize it. So let's think about why a website is important. First of all, it's open 24/7, all the time. Even when you're away or you're asleep, the website is a place where people can learn about your business, submit questions, and even schedule appointments for you. Studies show a lot that during the week, people are looking for small businesses or maybe looking for a dentist in the evening after they come home from work and while you're closed. So being able to have an online presence is critical to you being able to be known. It's it's like your online shingle so that people can see you any time of the day without having to accidentally drive by your place of business. It's also a representation of your brand. This is your online business sign that says, please stop by my practice. My practice is really what you need. And it should make sure that it inspires the same confidence as your actual office. This is why photos of your staff and your office and even maybe sometimes if they allow you, your patients is important, so that people understand what your brand is and how they should be able to relate to you. I've said this many times that if you look at what prospective people are looking for on your website, and I think Fanny will talk about this a little bit, is they're looking at you. They're interested in who are you and what are your credentials, as well as what is your staff like, and are they nice and are they friendly? And what does your office look like inside? Not necessarily outside, because a lot of you, where you locate your practice is based on density, but on the inside, how nice is it? The next one talks a little bit about maintenance, but just to make sure you know that today's websites and ProSites websites as well, making changes relatively easy. In the past, or in the print days, or even now if you have prints, for instance, if you have a brochure about your practice, if you happen to change your staff or you happen to change your phone number for your office, you have to redo all of your materials. With an online website, you really can make that change within minutes, and it be populated or permeated throughout the entire world. So it really makes it it's instantaneous to publish changes without waiting for prints. The next area, which is one of the reasons why, if you have a website, especially with us, that you really picked companies like ours or our company, and that is because it provides information. Everyone says content is king, and you can provide information to help your patients learn about a procedure, learn about your specialties, learn about things that you've talked to them about, to become more educated, so that they'll actually they'll actually have case acceptance for the procedure that you're recommending. So providing information in a central location where your patients can find you, and keeping that information current, is very important. Really, if you think about it, your website is the hub or the cornerstone of all of your online or digital marketing strategy. When you think about that, when you think about your website being the central starting point where all of the different tentacles come out of, it really shows you how important a website is today and is going to be in the future. It holds all the information about your practice, it provides content that you want, and is also the starting point for things that help you do online marketing, like search engine optimization, pay-per-click, social media, all of the things that you would think about, in terms of your brand, in terms of being able to get to do your online marketing strategy. That's where the website really is important. And at the end of the day, the reason why you have a website is that it generates leads. It's not just about being able to make sure that your patients can quickly look you up because they don't remember your address, or because no one remembers a phone number anymore to find your phone number. It really is there for you to find new patients, and that's the whole purpose of your website. And having a website improves your chances of ranking. So not just, you can't just have a LinkedIn profile or a Yelp profile or a Google Plus profile. You need a website to allow your patients to find you, as well as new patients to be able to look at your business and understand your business. So I hope that you'll start to get a sense of that a website is not just a place where you put something up once and set it and forget it. It's really a living, breathing key component of your online marketing strategy. So I'm going to turn it over to Fanny, who's going to talk to you for a little while about who's using your website, and it's really important to think about this, and then she's going to give you some tips and ideas of how you can make improvements. Fanny?
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, so I will be spending most of the time talking to you about your website, and most importantly, who uses your website. Now, that's kind of a no-brainer question. Who uses your website? Well, people. And that's true, yes, of course it's there for people, but you also have to think about the search engines. And really, when you start thinking about these two entities that encounter your website, that's when you can start to formulate and understand how to build your perfect website, and one that serves yours and your business's needs. And really what you're talking about when you're talking about people, so I'm going to break this down between what you need for people and what you need for SEO. But please keep in mind that a lot of this overlaps. Generally, what's best that you do, or the tactics that you implement on your website, you want them to be for people first and for search engines second. So when we're talking about people or potential patients, you're really talking about user experience. And user experience can actually be defined as the overall experience of a person using a website, especially in terms of how easy or pleasing it is to use. And that's very, very important. And this is how user experience can be broken down. It's generally these four factors. People worry about the design. How does it look? That actually carries a lot of weight, and I'll go into that a little bit later. The navigation. How can they find the information that they're looking for once they're on your site? The content. How relevant is the information on your site specific to what I'm looking for? And can I find it on my mobile device? Because more people now use mobile devices than the actual computer that's sitting on your desk or desktop. Okay, so let's talk about design. So I was going through doing some research for design, and I found this article from Forbes. And what they did is they actually did a study on how design factors into both searchers and SEO. And what they found is that design elements are exponentially more powerful than content in terms of mistrust. And when people mistrust something, that really influences their behavior on their site. When asked to describe why people that they surveyed, mistrusted a website, 94% of comments were directly related to web design elements, and while only 6% referenced the specific content. So what does that mean? That means that your website has to look good. Plain and simple. It has to. And these are the elements that actually cause mistrust according to Forbes. The first one being a busy or outdated layout. When you have a busy layout, not only is it difficult to understand what you're trying to get me to do on your site, one that is outdated really, it kind of conveys the message that you're out of touch with technology. And in terms of websites, I mean, websites have been around for a really long time. There's really no reason for anyone to be out of touch with at least a website. And so that kind of begs the question, well, if you're out of touch with something as simple as a website from the perspective of patients, how out of touch are you with technology within your office? Also, another thing that causes mistrust are pop-ups or flashy ads. Those are just plain annoying. You don't really want flashy ads because really people now are searching in a search engine and asking a specific question and looking for a specific answer. If they're interrupted with a lot of information that they really can't get around, they're going to give up and go away. Also, you're going to want to think about how your copy actually displays on your website, and if it's small or difficult to read, that's also not only frustrating, but it causes mistrust because it shows that you don't really know what your website needs to look like. One other thing is also a boring design or something that lacks color, and slow load times. Those are more pain points of frustration for a user. Okay, so I wanted to give you guys a real-life example. This website doesn't look bad at first glance, but there are a few things that can be improved. For example, when you look at the banner here, you can see that it's using an outdated language called Flash. Now, Flash doesn't play nice with mobile devices anymore. It just doesn't. And you can tell that it's Flash. Now, what does that do? One, it shows that it's outdated. And two, it's potentially difficult to use on a mobile device, which is probably how most of the people are encountering this website now. There's also a few design elements there. There's one sort of plain color across. You could tell it's purple and white. It's kind of boring. Also, the navigation is a little hidden. It's right there. It's not in the worst place. And then the share buttons, really, especially at the top, those aren't necessarily placed in the most intuitive place. Usually, if people want to share content, it's because they've already read it, and they're probably at the bottom of that specific page. So placing different elements on your website have to be intuitive. For example, these share buttons that would probably do a lot better at the bottom of this specific page. Okay, let's move on to navigation. Now, research by the user interface engineering company shows that most people cannot find the information they seek on the website about 60% of the time. And people will actually, if they don't see it on the first page of where their search brought them on the website, then they'll just hit the back button and go back to the search engine rather than navigate around the website and try to find what they're looking for. So what are some common mistakes in navigation that we see on a lot of websites? Well, one is using a non-standard style. A lot of people are used to a specific style for navigation, especially when it comes to mobile devices. And we've kind of been trained to look for that specific style and don't really want to deal with anything else. And that standard style really is a horizontal bar across the top for desktop and then along the left side for mobile. That's where we're trying to look for it, and if we don't find it right away, no one's going to take the time to look for it. They're just going to go back. Another thing is having too many items in your navigation. Now, I see this a lot. I used to work with our SEO department. I would go and look at a lot of websites, a lot of websites, and a lot of people made the mistake of not condensing the navigation. Now, what that does is that puts too many items there that are difficult to remember. You have to remember that most people's short-term memory will only remember 7 items. If it's more than that, that's too much. Another thing that makes it difficult is having items in the navigation in the wrong order. People will remember the first item in navigation and anything that is last. Just like in a presentation, you remember the first thing that's said and the last thing that's said. So you want your most important pages to be first and last in the navigation structure. And really when it comes down to navigation on a website, the overall rule, just like Pamela Vaughn said in HubSpot, the overall rule is just to make sure that your visitors don't have to think. If you make them think, it's going to be difficult for them. Make it easy for them by structuring the navigation correctly. Okay, now let's move on to content. All right, so in this particular case, when I'm referring to content, what I'm really referring to is the copy and then the supporting images for your copy, right? So there are a few different things, a few common problems. There are 4 of them. The first one being your content having no purpose. And really what it comes down to is each specific page and then the website overall has to have a purpose. And you can divide that purpose up by pages and making sure that whatever the page says, it gives someone next action or something to act upon. So, you'll have a call to action is what we call it, like, book your next appointment, contact the doctor. It gives them a next action to click on and fill out the form or do whatever they need to do or ask a question. By giving people specific actions, then they're more likely to find what they're looking for. And another problem is having too much copy. I see this a lot, and I understand why people do it. A lot of people are concerned about looking professional and like they know what they're talking about, but it's kind of a balance with your copy. You can't have too little, but you can't have too much, because at one point, anyone who's on your page is not really going to know what to do with all that copy, and they're not really going to go into deciphering and trying to digest it. So one thing that you want to do is first condense it to make sure that it's very specific to the page and very specific to a topic, which, by the way, is very important in SEO as well. And making it digestible by using bulleted lists, separating paragraphs, using images, pretty much breaking up that wall of text that makes it easier to digest. If you have to touch on a different topic, it's best to link to another page that touches on that topic. And that's also really good for SEO. This is how a website should be structured. One specific topic for one page, and then anything that needs to elaborate that's related but somewhat of a different topic should be put somewhere else. Okay, and I already touched on this next one a little bit, which is not having enough copy. A lot of people think, well, I'm just going to have like one call to action and tell people what to do. No, I mean, you want to have enough copy on there that people go there and if they see what they're looking for and they actually decide to take action on your button to schedule an appointment. So you want to include enough messaging to establish that they're getting what they want when they find it there on your page. That's your value proposition. Moving on, you want to make sure that your content is not sloppy. So I'm sure we've all seen this, especially in social media. You see someone post a status and there's a a little, some grammatical error, and it kind of, you notice it. It doesn't really bother you, but you notice that it's there, and it kind of makes you question the person's credibility. I know I do it. I'm probably the only one. So really, when you're writing this as a professional business, you want to make sure that your content isn't sloppy because it's a representation of you. And you want to be aware of grammatical errors, awkward wording, or poorly articulated concepts. And you want to make sure that all of that is put together well so that you can look as professional as possible. Not doing that makes you look unprofessional and somewhat careless. Okay, so moving on to mobile. Now, mobile is very important now. In fact, it's actually a ranking factor because so many people now search on their mobile devices, like I said, rather than their computer on their desk. And so what that means to you is making sure that all of those factors that I've mentioned in the last few minutes transfer well to a mobile device. And usually that's done with something that we call responsive design. Now, responsive design allows the website to respond to the device that it's being viewed on and the content around that device. And this is an example on the screen. The one on the left is, a mobile design, and it has, you can see the navigation toward the top. It uses the standard navigation button for a menu, which is those 3 lines that you see there. You can read the text. The design looks good, so it's not going to scare anyone away. And you can see it's very easy to use. The one on the right, the navigation is still laid out as if it were being seen on a desktop device. And there's too many buttons on there. The form that you see there, that's that blue column, that's probably going to be very difficult to use on a mobile device. And at first, the text on there is going to be very small and difficult to read. Nobody's going to take the time to figure out what to do with that website. They're going to hit the back button and get out of there. Okay, so I wanted to give you guys a real-life example so you could see all of the stuff that I'm talking about and how it was applied. So this is an actual website. You can see it makes a great first impression. It's updated, it looks modern, it has complementary colors, and the background is nice, but nothing is clashing on there. It has user-friendly navigation. The navigation structure at the top is very intuitive. You know exactly what you're going to get if you click on those buttons. And then the design itself sort of forces you to scroll down and look for more information because it draws the eye down. Here's that same page. It's very intuitive, like I said, the navigation. It's memorable. So this is a pretty site. It has a wonderful family. They're all smiling. You remember it, and if for whatever reason you need to get off the page, you're probably going to remember that really pretty family that's right there front and center. Okay, so the content here, in this particular case, you know exactly what you're getting. If I was looking for a certain procedure, I'd most likely run into this page. I know that I'm looking for the procedure, so it confirms the search that I'm looking for, and it gives a little bit of a description of the procedures and provides links to elaborate on those procedures so that's not crowding this page. And then it also gives some really clear steps. So you can see within the last sentence there, I can schedule an appointment, or I can navigate a little further down to find out more information about procedures. It's very easy to use. And then finally, all of those elements are present in the mobile version of this site. It gives a great first impression, it has a great layout, the mobile navigation is intuitive, the content is really easy to digest even on the mobile device, and it still provides those next steps. Okay, so that was all of the user experience factors. Now moving on to a website for search engines. Now, like I said, a lot of this is going to overlap. So the tactics that I spoke to just now are going to transfer well into SEO, and a lot of what the strides that we're making in the industry to SEO are because we want to create a better user experience as SEOs, and the tactics will complement that. So when you're thinking about building a website for search engines, You have to keep in mind that search engines look at your website and the websites that link to it to determine how relevant your practice is to any given search query. In fact, about 50% of local search ranking factors are dependent on a well-optimized website, not just any website, a well-optimized one. So what does that mean? Okay, so first we're going to look at the mobile compatibility. You know, a search engine is going to look, well, does this website look good on a mobile device? And it will determine whether it does or it doesn't, and then tick off a ranking factor, right? Next, it will look at the metadata. Now, metadata it's copy, it's English, but it's not evident on the pages themselves. You have to use special tools to pull it out. And really, it's the primary language that search engines speak to understand what your website is about, along with all the other copy. And so really what this ends up doing is they'll take little snippets of the metadata, the written language that you have within the structured site, pull it out, and put it in the search engine results page. And that helps people decide whether to click through to the web page or not. Okay, and the next part would be the actual copy. So that's the copy that's on the pages and that you can read. Of course, search engines will read that, they'll understand it, interpret it, and then categorize it under specific search queries. And then they'll also look at the URL structure. Now, remember me going on and on about the navigation? A lot of the URL structure is going to be determined by that navigation. Most websites will create a hierarchy that's represented within that URL structure. And what that does is it helps search engines understand how to follow your website. It leads the crawlers, and it links all of the different pages to start understanding how they're supposed to be related to each other conceptually. Finally, there have to be internal links. So remember when I was talking about linking certain copy within the website to other pages to elaborate on a topic? Well, spiders will actually use that link to go on to the next page, and just like the searchers themselves, they'll go from one page to another, figure out how they're related, and then read the copy so that they can interpret it, understand it, and present it in search engine results pages. Okay, so that was a high-level overview of why you want to think about who's using your website and what to think about in your next steps when building a perfect website. But we also have to think about yourself. With these final considerations, you have to think about how easy is it for you to edit the site. How easily can you update the content, the copy, the images, the forms that lead to your email address for potential patients to contact you? And how easily can you implement analytics so that you understand what's happening to your website? Most people take the approach, like Keith said, well, here's my website and I hope it works. No, you have to take a little bit more time, and then, if you implement time and invest time into your website, you want to know that it's working, and analytics is the way to do that. You also want to consider how quickly you can update your design style. Designs change, over time. What's considered modern today is not going to be considered modern tomorrow. So you have to be able to update the aesthetics of your website, and you have to be able to do it easily so that it looks good on mobile and desktop devices, mobile first. And then finally, you have to think about how much time you have to dedicate to your website and what your resources are. With us, we have a full staff of people that are willing to walk you hand in hand down the changes that you want to make, and they're really good about clarifying the changes and making sure to give you exactly what you want. And with other companies that have a more general template, you don't necessarily get that versus a company that caters specifically to dentists. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Keith to finish off the presentation.
Thanks, Fanny. I appreciate that. I hope you really got a lot of good information from Fanny and really got the picture that I talked about at the beginning, and then Fanny really made it clear that a website is really important. A website for you as an online marketing strategy can really make a difference in growing your practice as well as being able to engage your current patients. And I just hope that this has been good for you. If you're not a customer of ours, or even if you are, we just want to also encourage you to talk to an account advisor here if you have questions, if you want to upgrade your style or the look of your website, or if you want to add some other components to help supercharge your online marketing strategy. Also, if you have questions, if you're a current customer, there's a lot of things that we can do for you on your website in terms of your content. So please either give us a call at 888-367-0493, or you can email us for more information, service@prosites.com. Our team is really here to be able to help and help you continue to grow your practice. We're going to take some questions now, and I know that I saw at least one question, and as a reminder for those who are on the call, the way you ask questions is through the questions box that should be sitting on your GoToWebinar panel, and then we can see those questions, and if they're questions that we think that are appropriate or apply to everyone, we'll answer them. We'll answer them verbally to everyone, or if not, we'll write out the answers to anyone who's asked the question. I know I did see one question. I'm trying to find it again. That I thought it was a really good question, and it was a question from a customer or a potential customer, and they asked, I'm trying to find it, but just really what makes us stand out, what makes us as a company stand out against as a premier website provider. And I really appreciate the question and take that to heart. But here are some of the things that we think are really important or cornerstones for our company. And as I talked about, it is not just something we say, it's something we believe in, that our whole goal is to help dentists and other medical practices grow their business. And that's our whole focus through being an online marketing partner. But we think that we're really good at some of the following things. Number one, we think we have the most compelling website designs in the industry. We started this industry and built out this industry through our CEO and continue to really focus on designs that not only engage patients, but also get people to go from a person who's just looking at your website to someone who's giving you a call or filling out a form. And that's really important for us. Two, as we've grown over time, we really have found that people like working with us because we're a full service partner. We're more than just a website company, but consider ourselves to be an online marketing partner. So whether it's your website, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, social media management, custom designs or semi-custom designs, mobile as well as desktop, we think that we provide you with a one-stop shop to be able to get all of the tools that you need to help you with your online marketing strategy. And we take great pride in that. And a lot of people don't know that about us because our history has been just as a website provider. Because we have history, we have longevity in the market, and this is what we do. We don't do other things. We don't also supply, do dental supply. We really are focused on being an online marketing partner, and we're an independent company. So there's been a lot of consolidation in the market, and we've been here and will be here and care about customers. And that kind of leads to the last piece, and this is what we hear from our customers, is that we know dental. We know our customers' practices. So when you're engaging with us and talking to our support, we find that people say, you understand my business, whether you're talking to a salesperson at the beginning of the sale all the way to, I just need help with being able to make a change to one of my photos. We know your practice, we care about your practice, and the people who work for us understand the dental market. So we really think it's important, those things, and we hope that that's a differentiator. So we'll take other questions. I don't know, Fanny, if you've seen other questions pop up, but we're happy to take other questions. All you have to do is fill in the questions box. Okay, so far we don't have other questions, but I will say that what we'll do, Fanny and I will stay online for a little bit longer and just take questions online. So this ends the formal portion of our webinar, and we really appreciate you taking the time. We hope that we've been able to give you some insight into how you can make improvements to your website through our company or through your current website provider. Please give us a call at that number below. And I just want to remind you of a couple of things if you came on late. Number one, we are recording this webinar, so you can get access to a recording as well as a copy of the presentation. And as you're leaving, please don't hesitate to fill out. We encourage you, please, to fill out the quick 3-question survey so that we can improve our webinars and improve the way we engage with you. Thank you again for taking the time with us this afternoon, evening, and we hope you have a great weekend.